welcome, welcome. Come in, come in, come in. This is Tamika's Den. I am Tamika. Get on in here, y'all. Get on in here. Kick off your shoes and relax your feet. You are now in the den. So, guys, this is the finale, child. Okay, this is the finale of Tyler Perry Sistas. Too Little, Too Late. Season 5, episode 22. I guess, y'all. All right, whatever. If that's what they want to call it, child. So we basically got Fatima out here doing April Fool's jokes on Zach. We got Danny over it, cursing everybody out, clearing out the room, telling everybody to go F off, okay? We got Aaron talking about he got a stalker, but child, we don't believe you, Aaron, all right? We don't believe you. We don't trust you. And Maurice, even though daggone Calvin told him to stay his daggone behind away, decides that he is going to go and approach freaking Q, child. And did he shoot him or did Q shoot Maurice, baby? We won't know until next season, and I'm not sure where that is. Okay, but let's go ahead and get into this. Take it from the top, y'all. You know how we do. So nonetheless, we start here with Zach approaching Fatima right where we left off, and he is basically asking her about this child. She is like, wait a minute, oh, so he came, he showed up at the door, whatever. She's like, oh, let me give him a call or whatever the case may be. And so Zach is like, yeah, he did. And what is this about you having a daggone child? She's over here saying that she don't like him or whatever, right? And he's like, I see what you doing here. You playing a game on me. This is a gag. Ah ha ha. I learned my lesson. You know what I'm saying? I get it. And so she's like, nah, I'm not pretending. And he's like, you got a son for real? And she's like, yeah, like I told you, you know what I'm saying? I don't like him. And so, of course they are basically doing the back and forth or whatever. And, finally she's like, do you see how it feels when somebody is popping up at your door? Because he was like, you know what I'm saying? You just got somebody coming knocking at the door saying that, you know what I'm saying, you got a child. And she's like, yeah, now you see how I feel when, you had people coming knocking at the door, right? And she like, boy, I don't got no daggone kids or whatever. And he was like, you better not have no people come and talk about they Fatima's baby father. And she's like, uh-huh, yeah, that part. And he's like, yeah, I get it or whatever, right? And she's basically like, how did that make you feel? And of course he was like, you know what I'm saying, it did not feel good at all. So he was like, I get it, I get it, I get it. I said, really? We wasted time to do a daggone prank? That's what this was all this time, child? Okay, obviously y'all didn't have nothing better to do. I could have went without that, but you know what I'm saying? He said that it will not happen again. He made a mistake. He was getting buck wild and, getting caught up into the moment or whatever the case may be. And he found out the same time she found out. And she said, yeah, well, you know what I'm saying? You like spreading seeds and spreading daggone legs, okay? So stop playing around. And she's like, now can we just go ahead and go eat or whatever, right? And so he was like, his past is his past. Could she please stop bringing it up? And of course she says after they go eat, his next stop better be, you know what I'm saying, to go and talk to Karen. And he's like, yes, absolutely. So she was like, I ain't got no daggone kids. And he was like, well, why would you say, you know what I'm saying, that you didn't like the kid or whatever? And she was basically like, well, I was lying. None of that was real. And so he's like, yeah, but that is triggering for me or whatever because my mama don't like me. Zach was freaking silly. So anyway, he says he's going to go see her and she lets him know that, Heather's going to be coming by, after they get out of work too. She done talk to her and he says, okay. So we get back to Aaron out here arguing with this girl. And at this point, Karen is walking over and he's telling Karen just to go head back inside. And he's still telling homegirl to stop it or whatever, right? And Pam is basically like, nah, I'm in the background. Okay, we need to see what's happening. So homegirl is talking about are you the other one that he's been seeing? This is what he likes to do or whatever. And she's saying, I'm not leaving John. And he's like, I'm swear to God, I'm not playing with you. And she's like, what are you going to do? You're going to have me arrested? And he's like, just leave. So she was like, did he tell you what he does? And she's like, hey girl, hey girl, hey girl. Kind of reminds me of what was the name of that daggone movie when Tisha Campbell is Eddie Murphy neighbor rather, and she be like, hey girl, from the other side of the daggone fence. Was that it'll come back to me. But anyway, reminded me of that. So she basically, is standing there and saying stuff to Karen, and you know what I'm saying, Aaron is trying to get Karen to go back in the store, and then she hauls up and slaps him, and everybody's like, okay, so at this point, she finally does walk away. So now he's saying to Karen, "I'm so sorry that you had to see that." And she's like, "What the hell was that?" And he's like, "Look, I'm explaining everything to you in full later or whatever. Right now I want to go and make a police report." He's saying that he can't do it at this moment. And she like, "You can't do it at this moment." You know what I'm saying? "What do you mean?" And he was like, "I'm gonna have to go file this police report, but as soon as I get back, okay, because this woman's been stalking me." So she like, "Okay, stalking you?" He's like, "Yes, I promise. I absolutely promise that when I get back, I'm gonna explain everything to you. I'm gonna break it on down and tell you everything from beginning to end. I will call you later." So she's like, "Okay." He just basically says, "Just trust me, please." So she's like, "All right." So he got had to get in the car and drive off. Of course, Pam is basically like, girl, no way, Jose, all right? We ain't playing them games over here. Like, that's a no for me, dog. So she was like, "If you want me to, you know what I'm saying, before this daggone day is over, I can have all her information, all her social medias, all right, the Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, anywhere that she is on, and we could go ahead and DM her and get down to the bottom of this and find out who the heck this chick really is." Of course, Karen over here saying that she don't, you know what I'm saying, care or whatever, because Pam was like, "I don't believe this," or whatever, right? The woman that mad is mad about something. And so, you know, Karen is saying whatever it is done. And she's basically like, "Nah, girl." So she's telling her she needs to go back inside or whatever. And she was like, "Baby, I got the plate." And she was like, "When did you get the plate?" She was like, "I'm quick." I said, "Okay, Pam. That's what we like to hear, girl. She on it. So she was like, all she got to do is get the name. And of course, Karen is saying that, she don't need to do that or whatever. And she was saying he's full of crap or whatever, and that she can't trust no pretty, ninjas. Okay, so she basically was like, "I'm just gonna call my homegirl and she gonna be able to get me all the info we need." So in the meantime, she was like, "I'm gonna get to the bottom of this or whatever the case may be, right? Because right now it is basically looking like, you know, um, this man that had his wife come in and kill herself and all this other stuff. We might have a situation where Aaron might be fine and crazy. But baby, we been skeptical of daggone, you know, Aaron for a long time." So she said, "I'm going in." So Karen is basically just still standing there looking, and Pam says, "You don't pay me enough for all this, child." Now, moving on from there, we basically had Gary and Hayden sitting up in this daggone office, and they still waiting around on, you know, what is his daggone name, child? Why am I forgetting everybody named Robin, child? Okay, they still waiting around on him, wondering why he wasn't back at the office, and they like, "Should we go ahead and make the call?" So they was like, "Yeah, well, it's already at the 5, so you can't," you know what I'm saying? And they was saying like maybe he's gonna contest it or whatever the case may be. He's gonna fight like hell to get out of this thing. So they was like, "Well, if he comes back, then they'll be prepared." You know what I'm saying? They won. And he was like, "Yeah, bro, we won. Like, look at you." He was saying, Hayden is saying all he got to do is go ahead and send this email in to be able to make it official. So he was like, "Shoot, I'm about to get up out of here then." And he's like, "Well, where you going?" Of course, he over here talking about some, he going, because Gary was like, "We not gonna celebrate." He was like, "Yeah, we could celebrate later, but Tamara's trying to get with me for a minute, and I'm gonna hit it till I quit it." Okay, so he was like, "You know what? What's up with this girl? Where do you really know her from? What do you really know about her? Like, have you vetted her? Do I need to go ahead and look into her?" You know what I'm saying? So I said, now all of a sudden his radar is going off and he's interested. So Hayden talking about some, he done vetted her upside down, inside out, and all around. Okay, he know enough about her, whatever the case may be. So he's like, he don't need his help on that. And of course, Gary's like, "Yeah, no, you didn't vet her." He's like, "No, I didn't." He was like, "But I got my own vetting process, you know what I'm saying?" So he's still asking him, like, "Do you want me to look into her?" And he's telling him, no, he's tripping. But I think Gary is going to just look into her anyway, even though he's saying that, right? So he basically was like, "But we will celebrate later, though." You know what I'm saying? "My dude, appreciate you," and all that. So they go ahead and pound it out. And when he leaving, he see Andy, and he asking her again if they could see each other later. And she's basically like, "I'll let you know." Of course, she's supposed to be, you know what I'm saying, going to hook up with the girls a little later. So he go ahead and leave because prior to that, they was ready to celebrate and was like, oh, he just not coming back. He probably in Paris crying and all this stuff. But Gary was saying, it still didn't feel right to him as far as Robin. So now when he's leaving or whatever, after he finished saying bye to Andy, she sees, Fatima, and she's asking how her and Zach is doing, and she's like, girl, we good, okay, we better than good. She was like, wait till I tell you, the little lesson that I gave him earlier. So she's like, he's not concussed, is he? And she's like, no, girl, he's fine. And of course, when Fatima sees Gary, she's like, oh, and Andy's like, don't even start. And she's like, well, you already know how I feel about him. And she's like, yes, I do. Okay, you mention it every single time that you see him, so I'm very clear and aware of how you feel about him. So, we also had Maurice coming up to Calvin and telling him that, he's not letting this die down with daggone, Q and what he did or whatever. He's like, I have spare keys and I'm gonna at least at a minimum go get my daggone car. So Calvin is saying to him, like, yo, half my stuff got taken too or whatever. You think you the only one that's mad? And he was like, well, he should have took them ugly shirts you be wearing, okay? Because them things is hideous and nobody needs to be wearing them. So, of course, Calvin is saying to him, like, how come you always making jokes? And we know that that is just the way that Maurice tries to cope and make light of the situation. He was like, can't you be serious for a minute? So Maurice is like, okay, well, I am being serious. I'm not like you. He was like, I'm going to have to go and pick up my daggone car. I already, got a tracker on it and see that it is down by the airport. And I'm going to get it. There's no way that I'm just going to let him get away scot-free. People don't know me and they don't know that I don't mess with you unless you mess with me first. And once you do, it's basically on and popping. And so Calvin is telling him, like, please leave it alone. Do not do that. He was like, you don't want to jeopardize your case and your trial. And Maurice is like, trial? And he was like, yeah, you got to go back to court to go to the trial. He was like, it ain't going to be no trial because he's going to admit what he did. And Calvin is basically like, he ain't admitting what he did. Come on now. He was like, I beat him with a daggone golf club. And he didn't talk. He was like, yeah, well, that was you. I have my way of making people talk. I said, yeah, okay, Maurice, if you say so, all you're going to do is make the situation worse. So he turned around and was basically, excuse me, yeah. He turned around and basically was like, he going to handle it. And Calvin kept saying, don't. And he was like, you know what? You hard headed. You going to do what you want to do anyway. So I'm not even going to say nothing because you're not going to listen to me. And Maurice basically was like, yeah, pretty much. But then he started being like, no, for real. I'm not going to go do nothing. Don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to let it go. At one point, Calvin was basically like, that African paid money for you so that you could go ahead and get out of jail. And Maurice was like, well, why you got to say it like that? And why you got to be calling him an African? And he was like, well, that's what he is. So he was like, that could basically have like the bell revoked if you get into trouble. And he was like, I'm not going to do that. But we know daggone well Maurice wasn't going to listen as soon as he was saying that. So he basically, we didn't get to Zach coming into the shop. Of course, he trying to stop by and talk to, Karen and give her this apology or whatever the case may be. And as soon as Pam sees him, of course, she's all like, oh, how you doing and what you doing here and all of that kind of stuff or whatever, right? But don't you try to, start no mess when you get back there in the back room. And she was like, he's like, are you done? And she's like telling them not to be bumping and grinding back there, whatever. So he was like, I heard you, you know what I'm saying? Are you finished? Like, are you serious? And she was like, yeah, boy, get up out of here, okay? She talking about something, you talk too much. And he was like, really, me? She was like, yeah. So he was like, yeah, okay, whatever. So when he get back there, of course, damn Karen got her daggone attitude. And I get it because the freaking fight in the police was out of this world or whatever. Way extra than it needed to be. But at the end of the day, Zach is trying to come here. He is trying to apologize to her. He's like, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I know I caused trouble and all of that. And I wanted to apologize. So she like, really? Well, you could go now. And he's like, no, really. I'm serious. He was like, I really want to say that I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? I made a mistake or whatever. And she was like, Zach is funny because you ain't been sorry for nothing a day in your life. So then she was like, now all of a sudden this situation and you want to be sorry. She's like, I'm not signing these papers. So he's basically like, Karen, I'm serious. I really am truly sorry. She was like, okay, that's good, but I'm still not signing the papers. So now we back to that. So he was like, why you being like this? And she was like, well, no matter what you say, I'm not signing the papers, so you could go. Okay. He still was asking her why she being like this and saying that he's trying to apologize to her. So she was like, you trying to apologize after what happened in the restaurant? And he was like, yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to say sorry for what happened in the restaurant. She's like, oh, well, like I said, I'm still not signing the papers. And so she was like, in the meantime, you could go. So he's basically like, okay, Karen, no problem. He was like, you really could be like Jekyll and Hyde, at the same time. And she was like, yeah, you and me both. All right. We both do that. And then he was like, all right, okay, no problem. So he walks out or whatever, and she just basically was shaking her head. And of course, Pam comes in and is telling her that she just trying to check on her. So then she was like, girl, you got it in today. You was doing your thing or whatever. And she was like, yeah, I know, right? I was. So she asked her what time it was. And she's like, oh, shoot, I'm supposed to be going over to the girls to meet up with them. So she's like, well, don't worry about it. I'm going to close up the shop. Of course, here go Karen. No, I'm going to come back. Okay, after I'm finished with the girls, I'm going to swing back around and stop here, whatever the case may be, because I got to make sure that it's done right. And you know what I'm saying? Everything is in the order that I want it to be in. She was like, I can't leave it up to you. So she was like, yes, you can. I got you, girl. I told you I got you. So Karen talking about some, no, I will be back or whatever. I said I was gonna come back and I am. She was like, last time you sent me a daggone picture of the ceiling. I said, not the ceiling, ma'am. Come on now. You gotta do better than that. So we basically go from there to Zach and Fatima are basically at home or whatever, and he was home and Fatima walks in or whatever, and then she tells him it's gonna be a knock at the door to go ahead and open the door, and he's like, "What are you, a psychic or something?" So when he opens the door, of course it's Heather there. He's just walks away and she's coming in, and then she's basically like, you know, um. Fatima tells her to have a seat and she says thank you or whatever. And she begins to tell her that, well, rather tell them that she have this lawyer. But Fatima's like, no, you don't. Okay, remember we done got rid of the lawyer and you and Zach are sitting down and y'all having this conversation about this child support. So she's like, Zach want to talk to you about the child support. And then Zach goes, yeah, I do want to talk to you about the child support. And she's like, you do? And he's like, yeah. So she's like, okay. So he basically tells her that they are willing to give her $2,000 a month. And baby, that's all it took. You would have thought they were saying $2 million a month. Okay, that's all she cared about was the daggone money, honey. She was like, for real? Okay, give me the papers. Where do I sign? So he's basically like, and I want to be able to see my son every weekend. And she's like, baby, you can have him for the rest of the year. I could go home and get him right now if you want me to. So they tell her, well, rather Fatima tells her, have a lawyer. Do you know a lawyer? Okay. She says, yeah, she knows somebody. She was like, have them look over it before she signed it. And at first she was saying she didn't need to have anybody look over it. And they was like, nah, make sure you do have somebody look over it and sign it and then bring it back. But if you don't agree to this and that lawyer tells you that you could get more money, then you going to end up with nothing. And she just was like, okay, okay, and went running out the door. So we get to the girls supposedly having this intervention with Danny or whatever. Sabrina, of course, gets there first, and she just come in walking in, and Danny's basically like, yeah, hello, hi, what are you doing here? And she's like, girl, I just want to come and check on you. So Danny's like, you called them bitches, didn't you? And here come, Andy and Karen walking in behind her like, yes, she did. And as soon as they get in, they like, yeah, we could use some drinks. Everyone get drinks. Okay, let's make these drinks before we go ahead and get into this conversation. And so Danny is basically like, yeah, what are y'all doing here? And she's like, I already know why y'all was here because of course they were saying that Karen can't drink because she's pregnant. They like, are you, just so happen to be with child with all the extra activities that you've been having going on lately? And so she's like, well, what the hell exactly did you tell them, Sabrina? She's like, nah, it's not nothing like that, but I was trying to have me, of course, a hot girl summer, right? The thing we've been hearing non-damn stop. So they like, yeah, well, that got you in trouble when we was in school and stuff like that. And, you would think that that's not something that you would really be trying to do, especially after the incident that you just had recently. So Danny was basically saying, well, I mean, y'all numbers is just as much as mine, if not more. I know y'all don't want me to start pulling out the damn tally. Okay, should I run it back for you? So Sabrina was basically saying like, well, that was when we was in college or whatever the case may be, but we have basically pretty much been with the same man. You know what I'm saying now? So she just was, Danny was coming back at them, baby, and was like, what are you talking about? Y'all was running around too. Y'all was getting drunk and smoking too, and y'all was bumping and grinding just as much as me too, right along with me. Okay, skip to my loo. So why are y'all coming over here trying to judge me now? And Karen was saying, we not judging you. But she was like, it feels like you're judging me. That's exactly what it feels like. And they was like, well, that's not what it is. They was like, you just had this recent incident with the daggone stranger where you literally ran him over with the damn car, and now we got cute. And she's like, well, he deserved it. You know that, right? And then Cameron was like, yes, he absolutely did. But it's the fact that you had him come up in your home in the first place or whatever, right? And so then Danny's like, okay, listen. And then, Sabrina's telling her, don't get defensive. And Karen is saying, we all listening. And she was like, I'm not being defensive. She was like, what I was going to say is that's all done. I'm not going to be doing nothing like that no more. So then they're like, Andy goes, oh, well, at least with Preston, we actually like him or whatever the case may be. And Danny was like, well, Preston was a stranger too at one point, and it's interesting how y'all talking about y'all like him, but yet none of us don't like Gary, and that don't seem to matter. So of course, when that part is brought up, Andy is talking about some don't bring him into this. But at the end of the day, they actually all have points, and Danny is speaking the truth to them too. She was like, you bringing back up Maurice to me or whatever, and reminded me that he slept with Dagon, you know I'm sorry, bringing up Q and reminding me that he slept with Maurice. She was like, I don't need to hear that. I don't need you to remind me of that. Don't nobody know that better than me. And I didn't have no understanding of the situation. This was unbeknownst to me when I was actually, with him. So it's like, why is that being thrown in my face? And I get what Danny is saying. Like, when you're already in a bad state and negative state, and you're already probably beating yourself down and thinking all these different thoughts or whatever, and then you have other people come and telling you stuff though that you already know, you know what I mean, but they're basically telling you about it. That can be freaking annoying. And when they're telling you about experiences that you went through, and on top of that, y'all all have y'all separate issues that y'all are dealing with as well, but then you're coming off as if you're perfect and you don't have anything going on. And it does come across as if it's being judgmental, when it's like we all could sit here and talk about all of our different situations and things that we do wrong, right? So that was the point that she was trying to make, which I get, and I do genuinely feel like they were worried about her and want to check on her, or more so Sabrina, because like I said before, Sabrina and her more so have the friendship, and then Andy and Karen more so have the friendship, and they're both cool with Sabrina, and therefore they come over to Danny. But if we look at the dynamic of their friendship from season one to now, it's never been a thing where they really had Danny like she was included into the sister circle like that. Let's just be real about it. Like, in all actuality, I could see Danny being cooler with damn Fatima than I can her with them or whatever, right? So needless to say, as they move on into this conversation, they're going back and forth, and she's constantly warning them, like, I could start, pulling things out, and we've all been in this situation. And they like, no, not exactly. And she was like, well, maybe not exact, but it's a little similar, okay, a little similarish or whatever. So then Karen was about to say something, and Andy was like, don't. And she was like, no, go ahead, Karen, go ahead, break it down, what you want to say, what is the truth according to Karen. And so Karen is basically like, oh, well, she tells her, I'm listening, go ahead. So Karen is basically like, you were smoking and drinking when we were in college or whatever the case may be, and you were screwing a lot of boys. And then, Danny's like, good times. You were right there with me with homecoming. So Karen is not like you. And she was like, not like me. She was like, really? Again, shall I run the tally? Okay. So Karen is like, Danny, and she was like, what? She was like, don't you remember that those boys almost did to you, and that, tried to do to you at that frat party? She's like, of course I remember. I was the one that was there. You really bringing that up? Like, you really just bringing that up out of nowhere, and then damn ear grabbing and reaching and throwing that back in my face. She's like, it's all good. Of course I remember. Like, it happened to me. How wouldn't I? Andy is saying it was sad. And she's like, I know, girl, because I was there. So how the hell you going to tell me it was sad about something that I experienced? And so Andy's like, well, just saying that the aftermath of all those things. And she says, yeah, it was awful. I still remember and it's still there, or whatever the case may be. So Andy says, well, we're all concerned and we're all telling you these things out of love and our care for you. So Danny is like, you know what? She was like, you're concerned. You can say whatever you want because you're so concerned. Go on. It's all concerned. So Karen says it's an uncomfortable, since she was uncomfortable with her health, her weight, I should say, and trying to figure out things. That's how she ended up with wrong people when they tried to take advantage of her, and that's what happened. And so Danny is like, that's great. She was like, psychologist Karen just might be my favorite Karen of them all. And so, of course, they all just looking at each other. She was like, so psychologists, had you considered that maybe I was using them the same way that they was using me? And she was like, yeah, you said that at the time too. So she was like, oh shit. Well then, you know what I'm saying? What happens with this whole individual? What does this whole intervention mean? When a guy does whatever, it's no intervention for him. But when there's a woman, it's something different. And so at this point, Andy is like, hold on, we're not trying to judge you. And she was like, well, that's what it sounds like to me. And they're like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Let's all calm down. Like, Danny, listen to us. We are just scared for you and we just love you. We're worried about you. That's why we're here having this conversation. If you don't want to be with Preston, that's fine. That's completely fine. So then Sabrina gonna talk about something. No, but he's so damn near perfect. Like, come on, Sabrina. Nobody needed you to say that, even if that's what you thought. And so Danny was like, wow. And Sabrina was like, Danny, he is. And she was like, well, I would love to hear more from you about his perfection. So then Andy goes, if you're gonna have a hot girl summer, at least make sure that it's a safe one, that's all. So Danny's like, duly noted. And she, again, Karen is saying, we're only telling you this because we love you. And then Andy goes, she knows that. And then it's like, does she? And then, Sabrina's like, you know that, right? And so Danny was like, I'm not really feeling the love right now. I'm not feeling the love at all. She was like, are we done here? Are we good? And so she was like, I got my man coming over that I met on Instagram. That's a good place to meet somebody or whatever. So can we speed this right along? And so of course they still telling her, like, Danny, stop it, or whatever the case may be. And they was like, we can't talk to her when she's like this. And so Danny's like, nope, you sure can't. All right. She was like, you come over here and talk to me like I'm a damn child. You act like y'all so perfect. Y'all sit here, like I'm supposed to sit at y'all feet or whatever. And they was like, that's not what we saying. We never said we perfect. We know that or whatever, right? Well, that's what Andy was saying to her. She was like, well, it sure does seem that way, backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. So, Andy was like, you really doing this right now? And she was like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. She was like, Gary with his wife or whatever the case may be. Who's who. Like, he threw off the daggone building, right? Like, accidentally, that wife, remember, same lady that end up, coming crazy, never dies, shows up at your daggone house, shoots him and holds you at gunpoint. That crazy lady, remember her? Then sues all of us after that. Okay, did we forget about that? Then, but you're supposed to be the expert. You're supposed to come here and give me advice, right? I'm supposed to listen to you. You're supposed to be giving me that good counsel, okay? Because you're the lawyer. Then Paris and his grandma in his house, how was that? And now Robin. Oh, wow, yes, I really find that one interesting. And you, Sabrina, with the gentleman with the vibrator. And then Sabrina's like, okay, Danny. She was like, no. Then he walks in with you on another man who cried wolf. And there was that. And then there was you. And she basically says, now you get tricky, okay, to Karen, because you have a woman that walks into your salon, kills herself, turns out to be the damn ex-wife of the preacher that you are with. And, basically you get an even better sentence because you're pregnant. Pregnant child, but you don't even know who the baby father is. Is it the current man or your ex-man? Mind you, she don't know about the shit that just happened to Karen at the shop, baby. So she was like, this is rich coming from you guys. And I get what she's saying because they all do have their own situations going on at the end of the day. That doesn't mean that they don't care, But at the same time, it's like, really, I think everybody needs to be looking at the man in the mirror at this point. So she was like, you come into my house and I feel like I'm being attacked all over again in the same place that I already got beat on, slapped on, spit on like a damn dog. It's like deja vu. And I'm supposedly getting it from the people that are supposed to care about me, talking about some sisters in a sisterhood. Like, y'all can all get the hell up out of here. So they tell her, no, we not going nowhere, whatever the case may be. We are still sisters. You might be mad, but we still gonna stand together in the circle always, all right? Which I love that they said that, okay? And she was like, right, 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 sisterhood. Yeah, this is just the big old sisterhood. She was like, all right, well, I'm out. If y'all not gonna leave, then I'm gonna leave. And she grabbed all her stuff, okay, to go ahead and leave. And of course, they are saying that they will be there when she get back, because they kept, of course, calling her name, and she just was like, nah, I'm out of here. And she was like, well, no, please don't be, all right? Don't be here when I get back. Get the hell up out of here. But they say they not gonna leave without her. So when they sit down at the table, Andy talking about, well, that didn't go the way I thought it was gonna go. Child, which way you thought it was going, Andy? Because you should have known that Danny wasn't gonna just be okay with that. I could have told you that one. So now when we move on from there, child, of course, hard-headed daggone Maurice. He's saying here look like they up under some daggone dark bridge or something somewhere. Of course, after Heather had left the house, Fatima and Zach was able to hug it up and say at least they got that out the way. And he had told her that Karen said no, she wasn't signing nothing, and she wasn't shocked by that at all or whatever, right? And they said they was gonna need a bigger house for the damn baby. I forgot to mention that, or for the kids. And Danny does also get a call from Preston, and I just hate the way Preston character is being written, y'all, now. And I already said that. He's saying, oh no, I'm not calling about Mindy, because I don't, honestly, I think that girl is made up. I don't even know what the hell is the point of bringing that up. But nonetheless, she's like, oh no, I didn't want to meet the girl and I left, and I hope you're not calling me about that. And he's saying, no, he's not. Now he's calling because he want to get clothes from her house. And she was like, you know what, you do this on purpose. You know what I'm saying? You just want to play these games and have excuses to keep coming to my house. I'm not in the daggone mood right now. I will put your stuff in a box and put it outside. So he's basically like, why you acting like that, and what's wrong, and what's with the attitude? And she's like, don't worry about it. And he was like, I just can't with you sometime. And she was like, that's fine. You don't have to. Like, you never have to be worried about me again. So she's like, I'm going to put the stuff outside. And he's saying how he close by. I thought she was going to tell him, like, the girls is there, so you could go ahead and just go in, let yourself in, and get what you need to get and get the hell up out of there before, I get back home. But she basically, tells him she going to leave him outside. And he was like, okay, that's fine. So moving on from there, like I said, with Maurice, we seeing him, I guess that's where he tracked the daggone car to look like some little secluded, whether it was supposed to be parking lot, whatever, but it was just mad dark. And it's him and Q there. And of course, Q was like, well, what are you doing here and all of this stuff? And he's like, I'm here for my car. You took all my stuff from me. Where's my stuff that you robbed? And Q, of course, is telling him, I didn't take anything and I didn't touch anything and I'm not giving nothing back and all of that. And so he was like, yeah, I see that you even took the spare keys that, went to my car. So Q was like, I sure did. He's like, well, give me my daggone car. He's like, well, what are you going to do about it? So Maurice is like, I'm going to wax that ass, okay? So he's telling Maurice, like, nah, the only reason why you beat me the first time is because I let you beat me or whatever. And he's like, you snuck me or whatever. You got the upper hand, but this time I will be ready for you. So Maurice is like, okay, and what are you going to be ready with? What exactly are you going to do? And he go ahead and pull out this damn gun, y'all, and they start to tussling over the freaking gun. And child, we hear the gun go off. And that was how the episode ended. I said, Lord have mercy. Maurice was waxing him, though. He was definitely giving him a run for that daggone money, child. And he must know that he can't fight like that. And that's why he needs to, have a gun on him. He could pick on other people that he could think he could get over with. And after daggone, Calvin beat him with that daggone, golf club, I guess now we had to upgrade and get a gun. So whether it's gonna be him that shot or Maurice that shot, we not gonna know till the new season come. But that was basically Sisters, y'all. Y'all put it in the comments. Y'all let me know what y'all thought about this. To be honest, this did not even feel like a season finale episode to me, child. This could have been an episode before the season finale. I didn't really care for this whole season, to be quite honest with y'all. But we made it through. We made it do what it do, okay? But y'all put it in the comments. Tell me what y'all like, y'all didn't like, what you rated, what you thought about it, all that good stuff. Anything that I left out, you could put that in the comments. We could discuss it down there. Make sure you like, you comment, you share, you subscribe if you are so inclined, okay? Till next time, y'all. Toodaloo.